Well, hey, how is everybody? Well, good. Thank you guys for coming out on such a frigid night. I know I'm not quite used to it. But on behalf of my sister Allie and I, thank you so much for having us. And our goal tonight is just to kind of tell you a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our family, and a little bit about our work with philanthropy. And I hope after our allotted time you find it as interesting as we did when we had to sit down and kind of start thinking about how to do that. I mean, if I'm that bad, you can just tell me to get off. No, but seriously, our family's had a long tradition with philanthropy and giving, and I think it probably started with our business, Enterprise Holdings. Our foundation was created in 1982 because my grandfather felt that it was important to give back in the communities that our company was expanding to. So not only did we want to be good business partners, but we also wanted to be good community partners as well. Today we have foundations in 3 countries. We do give money worldwide. We just gave money to the typhoon relief efforts in the Philippines. We also currently, per year now, are looking at about 4,000 requests from all over, and we grant about 85% of those. But I think probably the better story is what happened in 1997. And in 1997, my grandfather decided to create a family foundation, but it was unique in the fact that he wanted all of his granddaughters to sit on the board. So not to date myself, but I was in college. I had 2 of my cousins in college. My sister was still in high school. But the whole goal of it was he wanted to teach us about philanthropy and wanted us to have an opportunity to find the things in our communities that were going to make us not only better people, but also to help us find things that we were passionate about. So he also claimed on the side that it was a good reason 3 times a year to have a mandatory lunch with his granddaughters, considering we were scattered all over the United States. So I think that was probably the beginning of really us trying to figure out how were we going to do this. And I'll get into it a little bit more, but I think the one thing that has come out is even though we're all girls in our family, we have some of the broadest taste in philanthropic efforts. And it has been hilarious at times. We have the side that love animals. We have the side that love women and children. We have the side that love to hug trees. All of it is equally important, but unfortunately we're coming up on 20 years. It seems like it was just yesterday, but we certainly over the last 20 years have learned a lot about each other. But we've also had a lot of fun doing it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my sister to have her tell you a little bit about herself.
So on top of being the taller one with the longer legs, she's also the smarter one. So I'm going to use this more than she did. Don't hold it against me. So as she was saying, when our family foundation started, I was only 17. And if you all remember what it was like to be 17, there really aren't a lot of people that you see in your day-to-day life at school that have any idea what you're talking about, nor do they care, really. So for me, it was a good way to get into learning about philanthropy, but it was also a way for me to bond with my sister and my cousins. We're all female, by the way, because we were sort of the only ones who understood what we were trying to do. So this was all a learning process, and through this family foundation, which started out pretty small, we learned a lot about different kinds of organizations and what to look for and what makes organizations work and what's the difference between, there are organizations that have millions of dollars and there are organizations that have thousands of dollars, and who do you talk to and how do you figure that all out? So today, the foundation has grown so much and the processes are pretty much the same, have changed completely, sorry. But the fundamentals of what we're trying to do have remained the same. And we have all, like my sister said, we've all sort of found our niches and the things that we love. And so we have learned over the years to commit to the things that we're most passionate about. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of give you a little talk as to my journey. I'm afraid my life is not that exciting, so I'm going to try not to bore you, and I might throw in a joke every now and then. I've already asked the other speakers to laugh, whether it's funny or not, for the sake of my own confidence. So after high school, I went to college in Virginia. I went the furthest away of all of us. As the baby, I think it's just my job to be a little more wild child, less directed, I went through a lot of different phases. I think as the baby of the family, this is kind of your right. So after college, I immediately moved to Hawaii because that's exactly what you're supposed to do after college. You move to Hawaii with no plan and no job. And you just kind of figure it out. So I started working for the Cheesecake Factory, which to this day was probably the hardest job I ever had. If any of you have ever had a public service job, it's really hard, but I recommend that everybody do it because I am the best tipper in the world because that is the hardest job. So after about a year and a half of that, I realized it was probably time to go home and do something with my life. So I came home and I worked for an advertising firm for exactly 6 months. And then I went to work for Merritt's and I became a travel director for a couple of years. And I liked it, but I started feeling that I needed to get a little more grounded at home. I was never home, and so it was time for a change. There we go. So I quit that job and I started to work for the Humane Society. I am a huge, huge, huge animal welfare advocate, and the Humane Society does such amazing work. So I went to work for them in their development department, which really got me back into philanthropy and nonprofits. They do amazing work over there, and I'm really proud of everything they've done. So after about 6 months of that, which sort of seems to be my general getting bored period, I decided that I wanted to start my own business, and I had no idea what it was going to be. Much like Hawaii, I told everyone I was going to be a business owner, but I didn't actually know what business that would be. So because of my lovely sister and my cousins who are smarter than I am, we all were sitting around one night having a glass of wine, which is where all good ideas come from. And we were talking about how we all have so many clothes and we have no idea what to do with them. And some of them are really nice business suits, and we would like some way to give them to women who are going to wear them for, job advancement and all of that. So through a lot of discussion about that, we decided it would be cool to have a resale shop that sort of focused on business attire for women to, if you go for an interview and there's 20 people there, you're the only one in a business suit, you're already doing a good job, you're already sticking out. Luckily, this was 2009, so the economy was not great, which was also a bad time to start a business, but so for 6 months, I just collected people's clothes and I put them in my basement, and it was really hard organizing all those clothes. So once people donated to me, then I actually had to open a store because otherwise I lied to them. So I went and I found a space in Rock Hill. I'm right across from Hacienda. No one really seems to know the cross streets, but everyone knows where Hacienda is. So I opened the store, and it started out as pretty much just business attire, but then it grew to all kinds of attire because as jobs are now, business attire is pretty rare to find. Business professional attire, I guess I should say. So the store opened, and we had a ton of clothes, and it was a beautiful space. And I started a program for local female artists because I feel like as female artists, it's hard to sort of get your work out there for people to see. So what I do is I offer the space to you, and you can sell whatever you make in the store, and we take a cut of that. But it's a really good venue just for people to show what they can do. I had to choose a charity. If I'm going to be a nonprofit, I got to give money away. So I had to choose a charity that would benefit from whatever money I made at the store. And I chose an organization called the Women's Foundation of Greater St. Louis. And I don't know if you all know about them, but it's basically a board of women who sit around and read grant proposals. And they decide on several organizations a year to give money to. So this was a perfect solution for me because they pretty much do all the work, but I'm still giving money for the betterment of women's organizations. And my focus was really on domestic abuse and education for children. So Rung has been open for 3.5 years. We've given $20,000 to the Women's Foundation. We're about to cut them another check. My sister is the top donor and shopper, which is really exciting. I think actually all my top shoppers are my family and my staff, but that's okay. So about a year ago, we were next door to the Rock Hill Library, and the library came over and they said, we're moving. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm ever going to expand, I kind of have to do it right now. So I decided on a maternity, baby, and kids store, and I called it Sprung. And so we have these whole ideas of things that rhyme. Like someday we could open a men's store and call it Hung, but that's it's far in the future. We're not there yet. And I don't know enough men that have enough clothes for that. But anyway, so then I had to think of, so then it was pretty much going to run like, it was pretty much going to operate like Run. You know, we're a donation only. You donate your clothes, you get a tax deduction at the end of the year, so on and so forth. But I needed a charity for Sprung. So because of my relationship with them, I chose Nurses for Newborns. And Nurses for Newborns offers, yes. Nurses for Newborns, hi Eileen. Nurses for Newborns offers free nursing care for at-risk mothers, and they have done an amazing job. They don't just work with mothers, they work with families, they work with babies. They have done an amazing work. So although I have not given them any money yet because we haven't been open, I am optimistic. So that is good. So that's where I am today with the stores. I work there full-time. I'm actually there. It's fun. It's kind of like a sorority for me. I've got 11 employees, and we all have dogs that we all bring to the store, which can be a little hectic sometimes, but it's just who I am. So on top of all that, a couple other things that I'm interested in is the Humane Society. I'll go back to that for a second. I joined the board about 6 months ago, just in time for a capital campaign, which if any of you have been involved in those, they're really difficult, but I really admire the work they do, and they're working on building a bigger, better shelter and veterinary clinic in Maryland Heights. So that's going to be really great. And I've been on a couple of their rescues, and I just think what they do is unbelievable, and it can be a thankless job. But I'm determined to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. And then on top of that, I also was approached a couple years ago to start the Young Friends of Forest Park. I have the president of Forest Park over here, so she needs to whoop whoop. There we go. And it was just me and one other girl who started it, and the last year when it was just the two of us, it was a little rough. But in our second year, we now have 9 board members and about 50 members, and we have a lot of happy hours. So we like to drink wine. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And a big thing for me that I'm trying to teach, especially the ladies in St. Louis and my generation, is that we need to be a little more active. We need to be a little more committal, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's advice and support. I'm really working on my age group because we tend to be all over the place, and I would really like for my age group to get involved a little more in the community, because it is a great feeling. Being involved in nonprofits is really hard, but you know what, it's totally satisfying, and I just can't imagine doing anything else. I'm sure I'll come up with something in the future that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing now, but until then, here I am. So I am going to pass it on to my sister to kind of give a little synopsis with how she got to where she is today. And it's completely different from mine.
So I'll make this quick. It's very simple but entertaining for you, south, north. My mom told me I had to go to college outside of the state of Missouri. I went to the University of Tulsa, which is exactly 45 minutes from the Missouri state line. I started interning with Enterprise in college. My mom and I did not agree on my allowance, and I've been there 17 years. It's the only job I've ever had, but I've worked my way through the ranks. Clearly, working with operations, mine were primarily in the Southeast, you certainly see that benefit of being philanthropic in communities, obviously St. Louis and outside of St. Louis. But I think over the years what I've found is I really am passionate about the city. Anything economic development, it's my home. I live here permanently. We obviously on a business side bring a lot of people in. And my hope is that they come in and walk away going, gosh, what a great city. I'm also very passionate about education and children. I think that's the future. I think it's something that we really need to focus on. And as you can see, two very different approaches to things, but it's really nice because the one thing is we always sort of end up in the same place. So they recommended that I end with a story, and I've been trying to think about, should I tell a funny story? Should I tell a somewhat serious story about our philanthropy? And I thought I would tell you the funny story. So we like to go out and have volunteer days with our families. Now, you have a super competitive group of people. So we went to Long Meadow Ranch, and we had to paint a fence and put sunblock on the, unfortunately now deceased pig, walk some horses and bale hay. Well, what happens is you have these little pods, and now all of a sudden you're competing. Who can paint the fence faster? So my mom and I have the fence. Now keep in mind she's had a full knee replacement, so she can't bend down. So she's like, you have to paint the bottom, I'll paint the top. While the other people are baling hay and whatever, and so we start, she goes, you need to work faster. They're beating us. The pigs almost got all the sunblock. I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. And I mean, she is just, get moving, get moving. We finally finish. I get up, I turn around, I have paint all the way down my back, in my hair, in my ears, because she was looking at everybody else painting, that she forgot I was underneath her. I'll still never forgive her for that one. So thank you again. One other thing I think I would leave you with is over the last couple of years, I've also learned that philanthropy is not just about donating dollars. It's also donating your time, talents, whatever you have. And so I encourage every single person, whatever makes you passionate, find a way to help. And like I said, I've been on boards where we've used people, their accounting expertise, or we've used whatever. And so it's just important to get involved. So thank you again for everything.